All right, we're going to cover this. I know that some people have already done so, and it might be not fresh for you, especially if you're already a Libertarian Party member or you are watching this cringe show go on. But Joe Jorgenson, the head of the nominee for the Libertarian Party in 2020, has officially stuck a fork in any hope of her candidacy going anywhere. And I don't want to do this in order to dance on her grave. I don't know much about Joe Jorgensen. To tell you the truth, I haven't heard her at all. I'm sure that she is a well-meaning candidate. I know that she did a lot for many years as a libertarian candidate in a number of races. And I wish that we weren't in a situation where third parties have become almost a curiosity in this election. You have to remember 3 years ago, or it's almost 4 years ago, obviously the election's coming up in just a few months. During the 2016 election, many people were talking about third parties. Many people were talking about voting Green or voting Libertarian because of Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, the two most negatively polling candidates in U.S. history. And for the Libertarian Party, it was actually a huge year. They did very well. I believe that they got close to 3.5%. And that is good for the Libertarian Party, but was actually underperforming for what many people wanted to happen in the election. People were hoping that they would get double digits, that Gary Johnson would be Ross Perot. And it didn't happen, largely because of people like Gary Johnson himself, who was an open borders shill. He obviously had no clue about foreign policy. And his entire platform was about pot and gay marriage, and that was it. And somewhat about guns. And this is one of the real reasons that we don't have a real alternative to the two-party system. It's the same issue that you see with the two parties, you see with the third parties. And that is the pandering. Okay, she tweeted out, "It is not enough to be passively not racist. We must be actively anti-racist. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Hashtag Vote Gold." This is a group that obviously many of us have been talking about is a force for chaos in the country, for disrupting people's lives, for ruining people's personal reputations. That's what Black Lives Matter means for a lot of people. So a few hours later, she tweeted out, Black Lives Matter means standing in solidarity with the mourning black community as we fight together to end qualified immunity, police brutality, sentencing disparities, and the war on drugs, not support of any, quote, organization by that name. And you can see the former nominee, Gary Johnson, tweeted out, "Absolutely, Joe." And then she put the fists, the whole thing where you put all the fists in the different shades of skin color in an array. That is exactly what people thought that they meant, that they were supporting Black Lives Matter, the organization. So she is giving an affirmative to the message of the organization Black Lives Matter, even if she's denying that they're supporting the group, right? She's saying, "Oh, we support the sentiment and the qualified immunity." And I want to say something. So this video was supposed to be released earlier today, but I decided I'd make it shorter and more focused. I will say something I forgot to say at that time. I think the qualified immunity, if you want to apply it to police officers, think about all the other people that that have so-called qualified immunity, and you don't really have movements to remove them. I don't believe teachers can be personally sued. Politicians, I don't believe, can be personally sued and held liable. You can definitely, obviously, everybody, if they commit something, a criminal offense, they can be put in jail. But the civil liability, which is what I think the qualified immunity is most is most applied to, the idea that you can't be sued for things that you do on the job. Think about how many professions there are like that. Do you think that it's really reasonable to say, well, we're going to make it so citizens can personally press charges and sue police officers. However, we're not going to allow citizens to press charges against governors, against the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, and file lawsuits, personal lawsuits that and there's been cases I know of where some of these officials have been basically sued, but they're not sued personally. It effectively their organization gets sued, but their name appears there. So that's absolutely something that people aren't really thinking about. That you're essentially putting police there because the logic is that a police officer, when they do something, they threaten people's lives if it goes wrong. Well, the same can be said about many other professions. Okay, and I think that people ought to really think about it when they talk about ending qualified immunity. And there are a lot of libertarians that support it, but I think that they should really dwell on that and think about what that would mean. Because I think that that the Libertarian Party has become absolutely a joke show. And what I was getting at earlier is that all of these parties, the Republicans, the Democrats, the Libertarians, the Greens, they all suffer from the same psychosis, this need to stab your own voters in the back and go after people who would never vote for you in your life. And I can give ample examples. You have Democrats, the grassroots Democrats, many of them desire Medicare for all. Many of them desire, a number of other programs that, that they, in some cases they want tougher gun laws. In some cases they want, legalization of marijuana. I think that would be the best example. And they're also traditionally anti-war. What do you get when Democrats get elected into office? You get none of the things you want. You get a lot of the things that the Republicans actually campaign on. You often get things like the tax loopholes. You get things like further toughening the drug war and the crime bill of 1994, the Clinton crime bill. You get things like the Iraq war, which a lot of Democrats voted for, even though Bush was president. You get a lot of those things that you didn't vote for because it is politicians who pander to the big center. And what we're seeing increasingly today, that the big center has completely evaporated. There is no political center anymore. So you increasingly have these people who are pandering to the extremes of people who don't even have any inclination to vote libertarian. There's no Black Lives Matter supporter that I know who even thinks about in any way voting for the libertarians because it's so out of their wheelhouse. It's almost like saying that you would have vegans being attracted. If Outback Steakhouse made an ad campaign to get vegans to come eat there, right? And they would say, "Hey, you steak lovers, fuck you." That's basically what I see the libertarians doing here. The same thing with the Republicans. The First Step Act, I personally had no opinion on it. Most Republicans, I would say, most people who have voted Republican their entire lives probably hated it. There's certainly enough to say about the Green Party as far as some of their latest troubles. I don't think that they're so much policy related; they're more personality related. Where you see basically these third parties are taking a machine gun and firing it at their feet. It's insane. And that's why Americans don't have third party options, because you have leadership that is so unused to having any sort of responsibility. The other thing is, I believe that this isn't Joe Jorgenson's fault. This is simply the way the nomination process works. Her running mate happens to be this guy named Spike Kohn. And this guy won the vice presidential nomination. And, I think one of his big things is that he goes everywhere with like no shirt. Like that's his big thing. So basically she's already wrecked because she has this dude who's just an absolute clown all the time, who is trying to, like he is the running mate and she doesn't have a choice. So Yes, I would say that if you are a libertarian and you had hope that this year the LP would give you a choice, well, say goodbye to that hope. It's over. You can, I mean, you can still vote for Joe Jorgensen. You can still come up with something in your mind why she's better of a candidate than Trump or Biden, and you might be right about it. If your priority is open borders and all of that, and all the other crap that the Libertarian Party has adopted that has nothing to do with improving the freedoms of actual Americans, then yeah, that you have a party that's there for you. And now that same party, besides advocating for, big corporate libertarianism that allows our entire labor market to be diluted with, cheap labor, it's the least popular part of libertarianism, and it's why many libertarians like myself have left any sort of association with the Libertarian Party. Well, I personally cannot see myself going back. Now, on top of that, on top of what we already have, you have this clown show of, the Libertarian Party candidate actually saying that she supports a far, far left philosophy called Black Lives Matter. And I don't think that, I mean, this is from Reason Magazine. This is the most, um, this is the most prestigious libertarian publication, and this was the photo that they ran of Spike Kohn, who I think he might be some sort of nudist. But yes, this is a choice that you have, and unfortunately, I guess we're just going to have to see the Libertarian Party continue to be a joke, and I think most people are not going to vote for it. I'm not going to vote for it. I think it's just absolutely, how can you honestly think that these people are trying to be the leaders of the country? I know I can't. Please like, share, and subscribe. Of course, you can see all of my different social media accounts behind me, and I'll talk to you later. Have a great Monday.